Hello, friends! A story about how a man coped with a difficult situation in his life. His wife cheated on him, but he found a way out. Let's get started. My wife and I have been married for 7 years, and we do not have any children. 2 years ago, my wife embarked on a new career path, and she has been thriving ever since. During that period, she brought up a male colleague that she worked with on several occasions, but constantly referred to him as a jerk and expressed her dislike for working with him. Gradually, she stopped talking about him, which made me think that there was no significant cause for concern. Despite our marriage not being perfect, I have always trusted my wife. Our relationship had been going smoothly, and I felt that we had a good rapport. However, about a month ago, I began to notice some changes in my wife's behavior. She was incessantly texting and never parted with her phone. She started having more engagements in the evenings and on weekends, and her demeanor towards me became distant, with no reciprocation of affection. Furthermore, she lied to me on multiple occasions about trivial matters. The final straw was when she was packing for a business trip. As I observed her, I couldn't help but notice that she had acquired a brand new swimsuit that was far more revealing than anything she had ever worn before. My curiosity piqued. I inquired about its origins, and she claimed to have ordered it from an online retailer. As it turned out, this was not entirely accurate. After trying it on, she apparently deemed it unsuitable for her upcoming business trip to Florida, yet still decided to bring it along with her. Intrigued by this curious turn of events, I felt compelled to investigate further in her absence. Throughout the entirety of our relationship, I had never once felt the need to invade my wife's privacy by rummaging through her belongings. However, after being repeatedly subjected to a never-ending stream of deceit and falsehoods, I had finally reached my breaking point. It was then that I made the decision to go through her things in search of any evidence of her infidelity. In one of her work bags, I stumbled upon a peculiar drawing of her that had been done by someone else, almost like a caricature. But what was even more concerning was that it had been drawn on paper from a hotel. As if that wasn't enough, I also uncovered a post-it note with driving directions to the residence of one of her male co-workers, all written in her own handwriting. Fueled by a sense of betrayal and anger, I delved even deeper, meticulously analyzing our bank statements, and to my dismay, discovered that on numerous occasions when she claimed to be at work, she was actually frequenting various restaurants scattered across the city. The discovery of my wife's untruthfulness was the last straw for me, and I knew I had to take matters into my own hands. Being a private investigator by profession, I had no qualms about invading someone's privacy, especially when faced with a reasonable suspicion of wrongdoing. Thus, I embarked on a quest to uncover the truth. Taking advantage of the fact that the car was registered under my name, I decided to place a GPS tracker in her vehicle, which was perfectly legal in my state. This would allow me to monitor her movements and ascertain whether or not she was being truthful. After all, actions speak louder than words. The Sunday following her return from the aforementioned business trip, she informed me that she would be heading to a nearby coffee shop and running some errands. However, to my surprise, the GPS tracker revealed that her car never came within a mile of the Chipotle restaurant she claimed to be visiting. When she eventually returned home, I was left with a nagging feeling that something was amiss. As soon as she walked through the door, I couldn't help but notice the unmistakable Chipotle cup in her hand. When I confronted her about it, she confirmed my suspicions by admitting to having eaten there. However, my skepticism was far from assuaged. The following Tuesday, she informed me that she would be attending a company dinner and would be working late until dinner. Naturally, I turned to the trusty GPS tracker to verify her claims. To my dismay, the tracker revealed that she had left work at a startlingly early time of 3:20 in the afternoon and proceeded to drive to the restaurant where she remained until 9 o'clock that night. With each passing day, my doubts and suspicions continued to grow. It was the final straw that broke the camel's back when the following Saturday, we were scheduled to watch my niece play tennis at the ungodly hour of 8 in the morning. On the morning of the tennis match, my wife surprised me by insisting on driving separately so that she could leave the venue early and head to a coffee shop to work. After the match, she informed me that she was planning on visiting a specific coffee shop, and even provided me with a few details about why she had chosen that particular location. Believing her to be telling the truth, I wished her a good day and made my way to my own vehicle. However, as I watched her car's movements on the GPS tracker, my suspicions were once again piqued. Instead of heading to the coffee shop she had mentioned, her car was headed straight towards a Comfort Inn motel. At this point, I knew that my fears had been justified all along. My suspicions had been confirmed. I drove to the Comfort Inn and parked in an adjacent lot, determined to wait until I could confirm that she was actually inside the building and not just sitting in her car. It wasn't long before I saw her enter the hotel, and I immediately called her from the lobby. Putting on a facade of ignorance, I asked her how her coffee shop visit had been. Her response was as expected. She claimed that it had been good. However, I wasn't about to let her off the hook that easily. I urged her to come down to the lobby so that we could finally put an end to this charade. When she finally emerged, her demeanor was one of guilt and shame. In a last-ditch effort to save face, she uttered the words that I had been dreading to hear. "It's not what you think. He has to do this because he's been caught with other girls before." Upon hearing her feeble excuse, I demanded an explanation for her behavior. She claimed that the man in question always worked in hotel rooms and that they hadn't engaged in any physical activity. However, by this point, I had already had enough of her lies and deceit. Without a second thought, I instructed her to vacate my vehicle, and I drove away without so much as a backward glance. In the aftermath of our confrontation, she bombarded me with an endless stream of phone calls, but I refused to answer, unwilling to subject myself to her dishonesty any longer. Eventually, I caved in and picked up the phone, only to warn her that if she told me even one more lie, I would hang up on her. It was then that she finally admitted to having kissed the man in question once, about 5 months prior, but insisted that it had been a mistake and meant nothing. She repeated her claims that they were just working together, but I knew I couldn't trust her words anymore. I inquired from her about the frequency of her encounters with him in hotels, and she responded that she had met him approximately 10 times in the past 9 months. Subsequently, I inquired about her activities on Tuesday, and she became defensive, stating that she had been occupied with work duties throughout the day, culminating in a work dinner. I was not convinced by her response and accused her of dishonesty before terminating the call. As I was preparing to leave the premises with my possessions and pet dog, she unexpectedly arrived at my doorstep and blocked my path, demanding a conversation. She was visibly distressed, sobbing and expressing remorse for her actions. Following my departure on that day, I have been away for a month. During this time, we have had a few meetings to discuss the situation, with her attempting to provide clarification. Nevertheless, whenever I attempt to pose my own inquiries, she reacts in an agitated manner, becoming defensive and stating that answering my questions could be detrimental to our relationship. To further compound this issue, she has been dishonest about some of the details, even in situations where the information appears to be trivial. I have challenged her on these falsehoods, but she has accused me of entrapping her by posing questions that I already know the answers to. Throughout the course of events, she has remained steadfast in her assertion that her relationship with this man was not of a romantic nature. According to her, they had developed a strong friendship, and he had been instrumental in aiding her career. However, she did concede that their discussions would occasionally veer into inappropriate territory when discussing our marital problems. Furthermore, she has admitted to exchanging text messages with him, some of which she had deleted. Although she maintained that these messages were not romantic, they could be interpreted as flirtatious in nature. She also disclosed that she had been grappling with depression for an extended period. He possessed a remarkable ability to assuage her negative emotions and provide her with encouragement in her professional pursuits. Despite my awareness of deception, there remains a portion of my being that is inclined to believe her account. Perhaps this is due to my love for her or a fear of confronting the truth. Regardless, I am consumed by a desire to uncover the veracity of the situation. I must acknowledge that even if I were to ascertain the truth, I am uncertain if I could move past the information that I have already uncovered. The question arises as to why this issue holds such significance. Am I losing my grip on reality? It has now been a month since the day of revelation. During my conversation with her last night, several noteworthy points arose. Primarily, I inquired about whether she had engaged in any communication with the individual in question within the past 4 weeks. To this, she responded that he remains unaware that I had confronted her at the hotel on the day of discovery, and as such, the topic has yet to be broached between them. She further elaborated that she had refrained from discussing the situation with him as it pertains solely to our marital issues and it does not involve him directly. I also asked whether she had ceased all non-work communication with him, to which she replied that she was gradually tapering down such communication. Upon hearing that she was merely tapering down communication with this individual, I was overcome with rage. It was exasperating to hear that she felt the need to gradually lessen contact instead of implementing a complete cessation of communication. Her rationale for this decision was that he remained unaware of my confrontation with her at the hotel. Adding to my frustration, she then proceeded to fabricate a minute and insignificant detail in her account. I immediately called her out on the falsehood, and my conviction that she was lying was unwavering. Despite this, she vehemently denied it and even resorted to yelling in defense of her position. Ultimately, I acquiesced and left the matter unresolved, adding yet another unresolved issue to this ongoing saga. Upon hearing her assertion that she was gradually reducing her social communication with the other man, I became suspicious and decided to take action. I surreptitiously placed a voice recorder in my residence before departing. Upon reviewing the tape last night, I discovered that my wife and this individual had engaged in extensive phone conversations that lasted for well over an hour, spanning across at least 2 separate calls. Unfortunately, the recorder had died in the afternoon, and I can only assume that they may have spoken again later in the evening or on subsequent occasions. While I was unable to discern many specifics from the recordings, I did hear a few troubling statements that raised further concerns. During their lengthy conversations, they delved into the current state of our marriage, a matter which she had previously claimed he was unaware of. Additionally, they discussed methods for utilizing a secret phone application to evade detection. To my dismay, I overheard her refer to me as a jerk due to my tardiness for breakfast that morning. Furthermore, they appeared to have exchanged laughter and conversation on a multitude of other topics. It was disheartening to hear my wife in such high spirits, reminiscent of our dating days. Upon confronting her about the recordings, she did admit to some of the details but vehemently denied other aspects. At this juncture, I am at a point where I am rather indifferent to the whole situation. It is with this disposition that I provide you with yet another update regarding recent events. As of the last 2 weeks, I have made a conscious decision to refrain from any form of communication with my wife. However, a few days ago, she reached out to me via text message with a request for us to have a conversation. Regrettably, I conveyed to her that unless she was willing to come clean about all her misdeeds, I would not be inclined to engage in any dialogue with her. In response, she made a startling admission that she was aware of the fact that I had been tapping her phone and that I had already discovered all her secrets. Nevertheless, I was insistent upon hearing the truth from her own lips. After much deliberation, she eventually acquiesced to my demand and agreed to have a face-to-face sit-down with me in order to reveal everything that had been kept hidden from me. Her arrival at my residence, she proceeded to make a heartfelt confession, divulging that her association with the other man was, in fact, of a sexual nature, and that it had been transpiring over the last half-year. Shockingly, she further disclosed that she had reserved a hotel room the day before our anniversary to rendezvous with him. Moreover, she acknowledged that she had persisted in conversing with him even after being caught, and he had been assisting her in answering my inquiries. Nevertheless, she professed to have terminated all communication with the other man permanently and expressed a sincere desire to repair and rekindle our marital union. After an excruciatingly long wait of 6 weeks, she finally came clean and made her admission of guilt regarding her tryst in the hotel. In all honesty, I reckon that the sole reason for her confession was my unwavering persistence, although she did mention that she had intended to tell me all along. Her reasoning was that she wanted to ensure that neither of us would be unduly hurt. However, the damage that had been inflicted during those 6 weeks was beyond repair. As for an additional update, I would like to take this opportunity to implore anyone who might find themselves in a similar predicament and are perhaps entertaining suicidal thoughts to not give in to the temptation. My advice to anyone who might be grappling with suicidal thoughts is this: don't give in to despair, because if you do, you'll be depriving yourself of the most wonderful moments of your life. This is not an exaggeration, but a heartfelt conviction. I realize that it may be difficult to comprehend when you're first embarking on this journey, but trust me, the joys and wonders that await you in life are well worth the struggle. Now, as for the latest update on my situation, I must report that my ex-wife and I have officially parted ways, having finalized our divorce proceedings. I took my time in arriving at this decision, and although I now harbor some regrets about the delay, it's in the past now. Surprisingly, my former spouse expressed a desire to reconcile and continue our relationship, although I'm at a loss to comprehend her reasons for doing so. The reason why any prospect of reconciliation between my ex-wife and me was completely obliterated was because of her deceitful actions and gaslighting tactics, which persisted for an interminable length of time. This has easily been the most arduous ordeal that I have ever had to endure. Throughout the entirety of my marriage, I was 100% committed to it. I wasn't without flaws, but I loved my spouse with every fiber of my being and had every intention of spending the rest of my life with her. I was willing to go to great lengths to ensure her happiness, and I believe that I succeeded in doing so on numerous occasions. However, now that I am no longer in that relationship, I have come to realize the true nature of our union. The experience of being married to a narcissist can be incredibly draining for a kind and empathetic person. In my case, the marriage was entirely lopsided, with me being the only one making any effort, while my ex-spouse took advantage of my kindness to an even greater extent than I could have imagined. I had begun to believe that I was a worthless partner and that nothing I did would ever be enough. She constantly belittled my profession, personality, and physical appearance, chipping away at my self-esteem until there was nothing left. However, since we have parted ways, my business has flourished, and I have even been able to date women that I would have once considered to be completely out of my league. The constant belittlement and emotional abuse that I endured during my marriage had seriously eroded my self-confidence and made me feel unattractive and undesirable. It's amazing how much damage one person can do to another's self-image. However, now that I'm single and back on the dating scene, I've been pleasantly surprised by the number of stunning younger women who have approached me in bars. I've even been fortunate enough to have a couple of truly wonderful relationships with women who are not only beautiful, but also kind, intelligent, and compatible with me. These relationships ended amicably due to general compatibility issues, but they served to highlight just how terrible of a partner my ex-wife truly was. Nowadays, I seldom think about her and have no contact with her to speak of. The divorce proceedings became increasingly acrimonious due to my ex-wife's belief that I was receiving an unfair share of the money. Despite the fact that I had consciously opted for less than 50%, in order to ensure that the division of assets went smoothly and without disrupting businesses and retirements. Can you even fathom the audacity of cheating on someone and then having the temerity to complain about the amount of money they're taking, even though it's less than half? This served as a stark reminder to me that I was making the correct decision in divorcing her and that I needed to extricate myself from this toxic situation as quickly as possible. The divorce was a difficult time for me, as I lost some friends along the way. I must say that I do not regret their absence from my life. While some did take my side, others did not. And I do not care for those who did not support me during this trying period. It made it easier for me to let them go, and I am better off without them. One of the hardest parts of the divorce was losing my in-law family. I had grown to love some of them, and it was tough to see them go. Nonetheless, I understand why they chose to distance themselves from me, and I respect their decision. As for the wife of my spouse's lover, I tried to contact her by correspondence several times. She never responded, and I am 100% confident that she knows. I will not push the matter any further and will respect her decision to remain silent. For anyone going through a similar nightmare, my advice would be to stay strong and keep your head up. Remember that you are not alone, and there are people who care about you and support you. It may be tough, but things will get better with time. If you find yourself caught up in a difficult situation, it is crucial that you take steps to separate yourself from it. Doing so will allow you to think more clearly and avoid being gaslit. One way to achieve this is by seeking professional help. I personally have been in therapy for an extended period and can attest to its effectiveness. It has helped me become much stronger, and I highly recommend it. In addition to seeking professional help, it's essential to surround yourself with supportive friends and family members. Spending time with loved ones can help lift your spirits and provide a much-needed distraction from the situation at hand. Making healthy choices is also crucial. This includes going to the gym, limiting drugs and alcohol consumption, and getting outside to enjoy some fresh air. While it's essential to take people's advice into consideration, ultimately, you must make your own decisions. After all, it's your life, and you are the only one who knows what is best for you. Remember to trust your instincts and do what feels right, even if it's not what others suggest. By taking these steps, you can overcome any obstacle and come out stronger on the other side. Wow, what a story! Did you like it? Then subscribe to the channel so as not to miss the next story, and I'm saying goodbye to you. Bye-bye.